All right, guys, we're on day 7 of How to Human. I think I've lost count. Who knows? And today we're going to talk about safety and communication. Some safety tips for beginning. 1, you should have an in case of emergency number in your phone. Um, iPhones now have an emergency. When you get to the keypad lock, there's an emergency button. You can hit emergency, and 1, you can call 911 off someone else's phone, even if you can't get into it. And 2, it will give you a medical ID options, which should say things like your blood type, whether or not you're an organ donor, and also an emergency contact. If you're an Android user, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sure it does something cool like that. I just don't know how it works because I have an iPhone. But you should always have an in case of emergency number on your phone. So if you are incapacitated, someone who finds you could contact someone important to you. Thing 2, don't walk alone at night. Like, come on now. Just don't do that. No one should walk alone at night. If you have to walk alone at night, like be on the phone with someone, actively on the phone with someone. So if you get mugged, you suddenly not being on the phone anymore is alarming enough that the person on the other end of the phone might call the cops. If you have to shout, if you have to scream because you are in distress, you need to scream words, not just like a random I don't know what that means. No one knows what that means. Are you laughing? Are you having fun? Is someone murdering you? No one can tell. So you need to scream words. If you're near groups of people, screaming profanity can draw a crowd. It gets attention. Unfortunately, we live in a world where screaming help rarely gets you any. In fact, people are more likely to ignore help. But like I said, profanity can draw people's attention, and also opportunistic criminals are looking for people who are easy to rob or attack. And so screaming super weird random threats at them might actually startle them into leaving you alone. Posture helps when you're walking. If you are uncertain, people can tell that you're uncertain if you're nervous. And so keep your back straight, keep your head up, look around you as you are making your way through the world. Take your earbuds out so that you are aware of what's happening around you. Like I said, call someone, talk, look at people. Someone is much less likely to mug you if you're going to be able to point at them in a police lineup later. If someone is mugging you and they want something in your possession, throw it away from you and them. Don't hand it to them. Don't go closer to them. Throw it on the ground, equidistant from you and them, and then run in the opposite direction. Get away. Like, your phone can be replaced, frankly. Your wallet can be replaced. You can call the bank and cancel all your credit cards. You can get a new driver's license. It's a pain in the butt. But if you get murdered in a back alley, we don't have any more of you. This sounds wildly counterintuitive, but it is true. If someone is pointing a gun at you, run away. Do not stand there. Do not let them coerce you into a worse situation. Certainly do not let them force you into a smaller space or into a vehicle or something like that. If someone is pointing a gun at you, you need to run away. Hitting a human being with a handgun is difficult. You are not a very big target, actually. Stress makes your hand shake. Stress makes your vision unstable. Someone mugging you is going to be stressed. Unless they are very, very, very highly trained and very, very experienced in high stress situations with that gun, the odds are good that if you run away and they shoot at you, they are going to miss. Even if they hit you, the odds of them making a fatal shot are very, very small. They are going to graze you. They are going to hit an extremity. If you can get away, that is a better option than letting them force you into a car or somewhere like that. If someone is not pointing a gun at you and they are trying to kidnap you, turn into a noodle. Go totally limp on the ground. Human beings are awkward, we are inconveniently shaped, and we are heavy. Unless you're tiny and he's huge, then run away. Run away as much as you can. The goal is always run away, frankly. Um, if you're going out with your friends, I am not crazy enough to assume that you are not going to party when you go away to college. Be with people. Be with people you know, be with people you trust. Go in a group, stay in your group. If your friends all want to leave, leave with them, even if you want to stay. If you are all ready to go and one of your people is staying, make that person go with you. Or split into two groups and some of you stay. Like, don't abandon your people and don't let your people abandon you. If you are at a party, if you are at a bar, if you are at a club, keep possession of your cup. It is yours. Do not let it out of your sight. Do not let it out of your hands. If your cup leaves your possession, get a new one. Don't drink out of that one. Somebody in the group needs to be the mom friend. Designate a sober person to be the designated driver or walker or just the designated mom friend in your group to keep track of your people. If you are not lucky enough to have somebody in your group that doesn't drink, take turns. If you have been lucky enough to make a friend who is boring, take them with you everywhere. I'm kidding, mostly. But somebody needs to stay sober. Keep an eye on you all. And know your limits. Know how much alcohol you can handle once you're a 21-year-old human being and it is legal for you to drink alcohol. Of course, right? Know how much you can handle and don't exceed that. And you can't just magically figure out how much you can drink without blacking out, or how much you can drink without risking alcohol poisoning, or how much you need, like how many drinks do you need to get to that warm, comfortable, tipsy place? Like, you're gonna have to figure that out, and you need to figure that out in a safe place. Don't let the first time you get drunk be at a house party full of strangers. Take a Friday night in your living room with a group of people you trust. Maybe your grown-ups, if you trust your grown-ups, or a group of friends. And once again, designate a sober mom friend and figure out your limits in a safe place. All right, self-defense. Let's be real. Okay, let me preface this. You may or may not know this. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. I took martial arts all through middle school and high school. And I need you to believe me when I tell you that the only way to win a fight is to get away. Whenever the opportunity presents itself, disengage. Run away if you can. There's no winning. There's no pride points. Nobody's keeping score. The only way you win is to get away. If you have to fight, if you are backed into a corner, literally, you need to know how and you need to fight dirty. Like I said, there are no pride points. No one's keeping score. Fight dirty. Leave marks. Claw their face. I mean, it's morbid. It's abysmal. But their skin under your fingernail is a DNA test. The claw marks on their face are a pretty clear mark of guilt when you are reporting it to the police later. Don't punch people. It hurts. Like, you will break your hand. Here's the thing about punching people. If you do it exactly correct, there is still about a 70% chance that you're going to hurt yourself. And it is really, really difficult to do it exactly correct. So, like, I just wouldn't punch people. If you have to throw a punch, punch in the nose, not the jaw. Not the mouth, not the cheek. Like, that's going to hurt. Those are hard things. Noses are soft. When you throw a punch, if you absolutely have to throw a punch, your thumb should be across the front of your knuckles. Not knuckles, fingers, across the front of your fingers. It shouldn't be under your fingers. It shouldn't be along the side of your hand. It should be across the front of your fingers. And when you impact, you should be impacting with where your pointer and middle finger connect to your hand, those knuckles. Just those two. And your wrist should be straight so that the carpals coming off those knuckles form a straight line with the two bones in your wrist, so you're less likely to break all of those things. Keys are sharp and pointy. They can be held in a fist and used as a weapon. Girls, I mean dudes too, but girls are short. Go for the knee. Knees are stupid. It's the worst design joint in the human body. If you can kick it sideways, you don't have to kick it that hard to break the knee. And I don't care how jacked up on anything the human being attacking you is. If you break his knee, he's not going to chase you. He can't. Throats are also good if you can get to them, but the problem is you have to get closer to someone to punch them in the throat than to kick their knee out. Collarbones break pretty easy. But again, like the throat, you have to kind of get to it. You have to get leverage. If someone grabs you, take control of the hand that's grabbing you so they can't drag you around, particularly if they grab you by the hair so they can't yank your head around. So grab them by the wrist with your hand and hold their hand close to your body so they can't jerk you around. And then you start bending back their fingers. You start pinching the web between their fingers. You start driving your fingernails into the bed of their nails, whatever you have to do to make them let you go. Stomp on their toe, headbutt them, whatever you can do. There are a whole bunch of nerves right on the inside of the thigh. If you can dig your fingernails in there, if they're not wearing denim, it's hard through pants sometimes. But if you've got a pressure point, go for it. The back of your head is super hard. The front of your forehead is super hard. Noses, as I said, are super soft. If you can connect them firmly enough to hurt that person's nose, but not strongly enough to concuss yourself, that could stand you in good stead. The nice thing about hitting someone in the nose is it makes your eyes water, and so sometimes it's hard to see. And remember, you are trying to get away. Break their knee, make it hard for them to see, collapse their throat so they can't breathe. All things that you have to do so you can get away. All right, super depressing, but what to do if you or a friend are sexually assaulted? First things first, get somewhere safe or get your friend somewhere safe. Like you don't stay in the situation. Get away before you try and deal with anything else. Don't be alone unless that's what you want. If you just think you should be, don't. It is never the victim's fault. There's a national hotline. It's 800-656-4673. And it will connect you to the local sexual assault services provider and trained advocates to help you. I hate that I have to say this, but don't shower because the police will need the DNA evidence off your body. And report it. Look, the reporting process sucks. Nothing ever comes from it. It's awful. You get dragged through the mud. But there has to be a record. There has to be a record every time. So that every time it happens, the record shows that that person's not going to stop. And you know how to get a hold of me if you need me too. All right. Consent. You need consent for most things, frankly, but specifically I'm talking about having sex with people. You need to get consent and you need to give consent clearly and definitively. There is such a thing as a soft no. That's when someone's going, oh, I don't know, or I have a boyfriend. I don't. That's not a yes. That's a no. That's a no, but I'm too afraid to say no. So treat it like a no. On the other end of the equation, if you are giving no as an answer, say the word no. Don't give a soft no. People who are under the influence of substances cannot consent. That counts you if you are impaired. You cannot consent. Unconscious people cannot consent. People under the legal age of consent cannot consent. That's why it's called the age of consent. Shocking. Just because someone said yes yesterday does not mean that you should not ask again. It might not still be a yes. You have to ask every time. Every time. Every time. And a yes can turn to a no at any moment. You may notice that that is on the slide 4 times because it's really important to me that people can change their minds. You can change your mind. You can change your mind if you said yes and find yourself uncomfortable with what is happening to or near you. And because I want you to have that respect, because I want you to know that you can say no, I also need you to accept no from other people, right? Okay, I'm not going to play the T video just because I can't get it to do the audio thing correctly. But if you look up T consent video, it's pretty funny. It's all about how people, just because you offer tea does not mean that they are obligated to drink tea. And unconscious people don't want tea. And drugged people don't want tea. And small children don't want tea. And just because someone said, yes, I will have some tea, does not mean that they will not later say, ooh, never mind, actually, don't want that tea after all. And that's fine. You can't just pour it down their throat. It's a great video. Look for it sometime. Okay. This is a pretty important thing to me. This is domestic violence, partner abuse, all of those things. My mom, when she was alive, worked for the battered women's shelter in my hometown. So I volunteered at that shelter all through my teenage years and through college. This is an issue that is close to my heart, and I feel very strongly about it. And I think the one thing that I want you to take away from this is that partner abuse is not about anything except power and control. It is not about sex. It is not about love, for sure. It is not about the relationship. It is about one partner attempting to exert control over the other in ways that are never okay. Again, there is a helpline. If a person that you are in a relationship with is not being good to you, it is so hard to reach out. It is so scary. How do you get out of that situation, particularly given that the abuser is so often separating the victim from any support systems, separating them from their friends, separating them from their family, making them rely on the abuser. But there is a helpline. It's 1-800-799-7233. And there are so many ways to reach out. It looks like control. It looks like gaslighting. If you don't know that term, it's when you try and convince someone that their feelings aren't real. It looks like blaming. It looks like emotional abuse. It looks like coercion. It looks like threats. It looks like economic control of the household budget, making sure the victim has no money to escape. It looks like using children as leverage. It's ugly and it's serious. And if you ever find yourself here, I hope you will reach out. And if you ever find yourself in the dreadful, terrible position of standing watching someone you care about suffer, that helpline has resources for friends and family as well. It sucks, but it is overcomable. All right, a little bit less bleak. Communicating with people you care about. Things that are really hard to say, but you need to learn to just come out and say them. I need help. Super hard, but worth it because you usually get the help that you need. It's amazing. People love to help each other. Like, I recognize that on the whole, people are like weird and awful, or it seems that way a lot of the time, but like genuinely, people want to help you. It makes me super happy when I get to be helpful, and I know lots of other people are like me. So asking for the help that you need often just gets it for you. It's really important to tell people that they hurt you. Often they get defensive. Often it becomes this really ugly thing between you, but like you have to say that or they're going to keep doing it. And you are important enough that you should not let that happen. On the other end of the spectrum, I'm worried about you. You just got to say it. I disagree is another one that you just like, it doesn't have to go beyond that. You can move on. You can be like, I disagree, but I don't think we're going to go anywhere fruitful. So cool. And move on with it. But these are important things to voice. Those are things you just come out and say. Like you just need to talk yourself up and make yourself come out and say those things. Um, on the other end of the spectrum, you can learn to say thank you genuinely. It's actually not that hard. You be specific about what you're thanking them for. You be honest. If you're not grateful for it, don't say it. Find the thing that you are actually thankful for and thank them for that and compliment them. That's really thoughtful of you, is a compliment. Speaking of compliments, accepting compliments is super hard too. Like you just feel really awkward when someone tells you good things. So here is the stock answer. 1, you say thank you. 2, you share credit if you did it as a group. Thank you so much. I had so much help from these other people. And you never undermine it. If someone is complimenting you and you're saying, oh no, it wasn't that, if someone was like, hey, that was really cool, and you're like, oh no, it wasn't, you're telling them that they're an idiot. Like that's the implication there. You're telling them that their judgment is no good. So don't do that. Accept the compliment and move on. Thank you so much. I worked really hard on it. And move on with your life. Apologizing is a multi-step process. First, you actually have to say the words, I am sorry, or I apologize. Otherwise, it's not real. If you're not actually sorry, then why are you doing this? Be actually sorry. So 1, I am sorry, I apologize. And then you have to accept the fact that you were at fault. You messed up. You made a mistake. You didn't know any better, but that's not an excuse. And then figure out how to make amends. And then do the thing. Being like, I'm real sorry, I messed up, how do I make it up to you, is meaningless if you don't then do the thing that they tell you to do to make it up to them. And then you promise them that it'll never happen again. And then you make sure it never happens again. So, like I said, apologizing is a multi-step process. And it's kind of a big deal. That's why it exists. Like if apologizing were easy, it wouldn't matter. But it does matter, so it's hard. Okay. The best communication advice I've ever received in my life is if you're having an argument, pretend the argument is on camera. Pretend you're going to have to watch it over and over and over again. Pretend that it is going to be shown to everyone who's ever mattered to you. Your parents are going to see it. Your professors are going to see it. I'm going to see it. Your siblings, your best friend, your significant other. Everyone is going to have to watch that video of this argument. Because if your words are going to come back to you, you will only say the things you mean. You will make sure to say them gently. You will make sure to say them kindly. You will make sure to say them carefully. And you will make sure to say them honestly. So, if you are arguing, say what you mean and say it kindly. And remember, your relationship is worth more than being right. I never correct people anymore unless being wrong will hurt them. Or, I'm your teacher and in cases where I'm supposed to be educating you. But like out to lunch, chatting with friends, and one of my friends says something that I know is incorrect. If it doesn't matter, if it's not going to hurt someone for spreading the wrong information, I don't say anything. It doesn't matter. Like they'll figure out they're wrong or they're not. But being corrected sucks. Like it hurts. It's embarrassing. And if you do that all the time, they start to associate that feeling with you. And isn't your friendship more important than that? Than that momentary feeling of righteousness? And so I've stopped correcting people unless being wrong is going to hurt them somehow. All right. I'm a big proponent of use your words. I scream it at the TV and then turn it off if stupid drama is happening in TV shows. Like I can't anymore. Um, and so if you come to me for advice about relationships, I am always going to advise you to talk to the other person. Use your words. And here's how to do that if it is difficult. One, acknowledge to yourself and to the other person that you need to have a hard conversation. Like this is not going to be easy, but we need to have it. Clarify your expectations for yourself. And being right should not be your expectation. That's not what this is about. This is about building a bridge in your relationship. This is about getting over a hurdle, getting through a difficulty, or coming back together after a time apart. Go to the other person and talk to them. Be like, hey, we need to have this conversation. If they say no, that's all right. Maybe they haven't had this honest conversation with themselves. They might need time. Ask, can I come back later? When will you be ready? We need to have this at some point. I'm not going to make you have it right now, but when will you be ready? When you sit down together, when you're finally ready to have that conversation, set ground rules together. How are we going to have this conversation? What do we want it to look like? No name calling, clearly and obviously. Don't call each other names. Let there be silence, to pause, to think, to breathe. Whatever your ground rules need to be, set them. And you have to be willing to listen. Don't rehearse beforehand. If you rehearse beforehand, you get set in a pattern. You're not listening to what the other person's saying. You're just waiting for the cue so you can say your next thing. And that's not what this conversation needs to be. Hear what you say. Hear what the other person says back to you. This is the hardest one. You need to be willing to be wrong. You need to recognize that there is a chance that you are the problem. There is a problem in this relationship or you wouldn't be having this conversation. And you need to recognize that it might be you. It might not be. But if you go into this expecting the possibility of growth and change, sometimes the growth and change has to come from you or both of you. And make a plan together of what the next step needs to be. How do we fix this? How do we move on? Okay, this is actually a super useful shorthand to me. I discovered it not that long ago and really like it. The book is from 95, Gary Chapman, and the idea is basically that people have different ways of expressing affection and love. And if you don't use your partner's love language, they don't know that you love them. And this is not just romantic, this is all of your relationships. If they don't, like if you're not telling them that you love them in the way that they're going to hear it, they don't know. So the 5 love languages are touch, gifts, spending time, using words, and doing things for them. My dad and I had a really hard time for a really long time because my dad is a do things for them person. He takes care of my car. And he does my lawn when he comes to visit and things like that. But when I was in college and every time we talked on the phone, he's like, and how's your car doing? Have you gotten your oil changed? Have you blah, blah, blah? And I thought that meant that he didn't trust me. I thought it meant that he thought I wasn't capable. But what it actually meant was that he wanted to take care of me. He wanted to make sure, specifically my car, that I had a way to get home if I needed to. And when I figured that out, everything changed. because I am also a doing things person. Like I take care of I'm the mom friend. I take care of my people. But I'm also a words person. I use my words. And so knowing that about myself and being able to recognize how other people do this thing has really changed the way that I interact with people. And so I have found this a really useful shorthand. I'm trying to hurry up now because this video is super flippin' long. Um, Anger management. Breathe through it. Take a step back. There's a physiological emotional connection that when your body is relaxed and breathing evenly and your heartbeat is low, you tend to be more even keeled. And you can use this both directions. You can use your emotions to get your heart rate up if you are trying to exercise and things like that. But you can also force yourself to physically relax and breathe and like physically relax your muscles and slow your heart. And that can tone your emotions down as well, not just in anger, but in all kinds of things. Um, I really like the I statements when you talk, when you are angry, making sure you say, I don't like this. I am unhappy. I am struggling here. Because then you can't insult people and say things that you don't mean. And then, of course, insert frozen gift here. Let it go, and all of that good stuff. Oops. All right. You know where to find me. Do your reflection.